Thank you so much for spending your Sunday afternoon with us. As you know, I'm Jess. Hi, everyone who's watching from home. Today, we're going to talk about community building, community management, and we're very, very happy to have a fellow Ghanaian, a fellow NoCode techie, a fellow Black woman on the call with us to give us all the ins and outs of transitioning into community management. So, before we get into like an actual introduction of yourself, there's some rapid fire questions I ask whenever we start this call. So we're going to go straight through them. The first one is, what is your favorite email sign off?
I would say I'm so boring. Oh my god, I'm so boring. I literally just say best, Chris or Christabelle, like you've mentioned. I go by both names, so I would be best or thank you,
To
Christabelle.
be
So boring.
honest, that is true. Like I played a lot with warmly, uh, thank you and kind regards, like all of those things. But I've realized that as I've sent thousands and thousands of emails lately, I'm now also on best Jess. Sometimes I just write best J.
Yeah, because honestly, I feel like that's not nobody's even looking at that anymore. Because I've said what I've had to say in the body of the email. We all know we have to do it for politeness, and this is also why I prefer Slack because you don't have to do any of that on Slack.
Yeah.
You can send your message out and be done with it. But on email, you still kind of feel like, oh, we've got to sign it off. And so yeah, I'm like, whatever is the
Exactly.
quickest.
Yeah, that's a cool one. What is your favorite morning beverage? What are you drinking every morning?
At the moment, I'm in London, so it's cold. As Jess and I previously were talking about, it's cold, so I'm drinking a vanilla matcha. So quite boring,
Oh,
but
you're a
it's also
matcha girl.
I am a matcha because but I've always drank green tea. Like I've been drinking green tea since I was nine because yeah, not nine, year nine. So I guess about 14, 13. Because obviously in that age, you're in school, everyone's like, oh, it helps you lose weight and stuff. And I've just got accustomed to the taste. And I feel like matcha is just like green tea, next level. And this year I've decided to cut down on my coffee because I was a caffeine babe. And obviously
Mm,
coffee is very good for you. So I'm bridging it with matcha.
fair. That is fair. To be honest, I'm also big on tea. I have so many different teas, but the one that I've been on a lot lately is we got this for Chris as a gift for Secret Santa. It's a gingerbread chai. I know it's like Christmas in a cup. So that's been my I'm on it for now. We'll see what happens as the year
Oh, I
progresses.
love that. I love chai, but again, I'm being so boring at the moment. Chai, I love chai, but chai's got so much sugar. And so, but that sounds like right up my street because I guess in also very Ghanaian fashion, I love ginger. So
Yeah,
ginger is
exactly.
a match made in heaven.
Yeah, no, this actually comes as a loose leaf tea, so I just do it without any sugar and like I can enjoy what I want without like going through like feeling guilty about like, oh my God, I'm having so much sugar. So yeah, it's I will plug you. It's a really good piece and it's from Bed and Blend, but yes, I'm a tea girl too. This final one is like, what's your favorite season?
I am a summer girl through and through. Like literally this morning, I was looking at. I keep monitoring the time the sun is setting because I can't wait till it starts setting after 5 p.m. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's so depressing. I can't do anything because the sun sets at 4 o'clock. Like it's very
Yeah.
irritating. I'm
Yeah.
so over it. Um,
No,
oh,
100%. To be honest, as a Ghanaian girl, I think my viewers are probably tired of this now, but I also really love the summer because I cannot understand why it's so cold and like I see the sun, but I go outside and it's not hot and like,
yeah.
what is this fake sun that you have in the UK?
I
But yeah,
just, the worst thing is again where I've lived in the UK all my life, I'm still not used to how cold it is. Like every Christmas or every winter, I'm still like, oh my god, it's so cold. Why is it so cold? And I'm just angry every year because of it. Oh,
yeah, no. I used to hear all the jokes about how people in the UK always talk about the weather, and now I understand because it's always so cold. And so it's like it's a very good way to start every conversation. How about that cold?
yeah. You can always depend on the weather to give you a conversation starter in this
Yep,
country.
100%, 100%. Okay, perfect. That was really great to understand a little bit about you. Um, Now let's give us a brief intro. Who's Chris Boateng? And yeah, let's see what that leads us into.
Amazing. So yeah, I am Chris Boateng. I have my background, I would say, is in customer experience and community. So for the last couple of years, I've been focusing more on customer communities. And I always kind of say that I fell into this really accidentally. I went to uni, funnily enough, to study physiology and human physiology, biology. So absolutely nothing to do with marketing, nothing to do with communication, nothing to do with what I'm doing now. And when I finished uni, I was kind of wanted to do, I wanted to become a physiologist, believe it or not, because yes, I went to uni for that, and wanted to do like health and fitness, that kind of stuff. Really kind of struggled to find a job in that, but then eventually found a role in health and fitness body in the UK, and I was on the membership team. So that meant I worked closely with the marketing team, helping them to do events. And then when I was on that team, I realized, we only really spoke to our customers when we wanted them to renew their memberships, which is terrible. They're a terrible organization. Naughty, naughty. That is terrible. And so I was kind of thinking of ways to really, make their membership a bit more worth it. They're spending lots of money with us. We want them to come to events. We only kind of speak to them when we ask them for money. Part of that was creating a newsletter, and that's kind of where I started getting interest in kind of content writing and actually customer journeys, because it's like, this is a terrible customer journey at the moment. And funny enough, I was seeing a guy at that time. He started working in startups, and his startup had taken him to Barcelona for the week, and it was a lovely free trip. And I was like, I want to work for a company that allows me to travel and also lets me travel for free. Like, this is amazing. So shout out to him for introducing me to startups and all the lovely perks that come with it. So after I left the health and fitness space, I was like, yeah, I'm going to startups, guys. High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Lots of play that, this it's kind of like, I guess this is like 10 years ago, almost. So it's like, it was all party time, like everyone's having a great time. They were layoffs. It was just lots of money, lots of playtime. Never used to be like
VCs were actually giving companies money.
So we were rolling in it, literally. And so I started working for a French company. I was one of 9 members of the British team, and was in a very unique role to kind of like onboard British customers. So the concept was, it was Airbnb but for cars.
Okay.
And when they've been operating in France for a long time, the French were really happy to give their cars to everyone, because I guess just French people are quite laid back anyway. British people weren't so happy to kind of be renting out they wanted the money, but weren't really happy to be giving strangers keys to their cars. Fair enough. And so my role was to onboard people, talk to them really nicely, let them know that, everything is going to be okay. You're going to get your car back in one piece, and you're
Yeah.
going to have some money in your pocket. Don't we love that? And but through that, I kind of realized that, while I was speaking to a lot of our customers were asking us the same questions. And while I could answer them, obviously in my thinking, I was like, you guys need to be speaking with each other. You guys are the ones going through it. You guys are the one renting your cars out. I can only give you so much advice. So I went back into our global team, our global French team, and was like, can I build a Facebook group? And we didn't have anything like this in any of our other markets. And I was like, yeah, I think it would be really invaluable. And so I built a Facebook page or group for these customers of ours, where I was, kind of facilitating conversation and helping them, but essentially making sure they were talking to each other, had the space to kind of grow with each other and benefit from our platform. That kind of led into in-person events, and that was, I guess, my first traditional community role.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really like this. Like, I really enjoy talking to people. From school, I've always been someone, as you can probably tell, because I think I'm taking forever to answer this question.
No, it's really good. And I think so. One of the reasons why I think that's really good is I want people who watch this who feel like they resonate with your personality to know this could be a really good avenue for me to travel, and
Yeah.
that's great.
So yeah, like I really enjoyed talking to our customers. I love talking to our customers. I enjoyed putting on events for them. I enjoyed kind of facilitating those arenas for them to talk and, ultimately, be successful on our platform.
Yeah.
Um, then in my next role, I left that company because I was only there for a 1-year contract, and then I was looking for another startup because, again, show me the money. No, but I say that,
Yes.
but
Yes, girl.
I say that, but I moved to a company called Birdie, and I fell in love with their mission because they weren't offering me a community role. Like that, after that point, I was like, I really want to be in community. I want to spend my time talking to people. This is something I'm really, really good at. And I got called by a recruiter, and he was like, we've seen what you can do, we've seen your CV, but it's not a community role. It's at the time it was, what was it, a customer success manager role. So not too far apart from community, still, obviously seeing the success of customers and talking to people, but not exactly a community role. As I said, I fell in love with the company's mission and their values. I remember it was very techy, so it was like I did about 6 interviews, speaking to people over and over again. And I honestly feel like at every step of the interview, I was like, oh my God, like I love this company, I love what they stand for, I love the culture. And that's always a good, like, I think that's something I really, really feel strongly and passionate about.
Yeah.
You spend so much time at work, you don't want to be somewhere where,
You're unhappy all
this.
the time.
Exactly. And where this was a health tech company as well, I really thought they were doing, and they are doing, good. They're trying to benefit the world, trying to benefit older adults, and that was something I also felt strongly about as well. So I joined Birdie as the second employee in their customer success team. So very, very early on. I think I was employee number 22 or 23.
Oh, you are in
So
the startup bag properly.
oh, listen, I had a time. I was having a time. I probably shouldn't say this, but this was like we had at one point we had just gotten funding, and this was before we started budgeting in the company, and our CEO used to come and buy us drinks. We used to get alcohol delivered to the office. It was a great time. We went on a ski retreat, as we called it, which was just a ski trip. Yeah, it was just we had like probably one work session during the week just to make it a work. But we spent our days getting pissed in the snow. It was great. Because skiing is also like, I guess like a lot of the team that I was with, they were like French or Belgium. And French and Belgian people obviously ski quite a lot. They're quite middle class. Working class girl from London. This was not something I had ever been used to, or something I had remotely seen,
Yeah.
and didn't realize how expensive ski holidays were. They were like, it cost us like just the skiing alone was, I think, $3,000 per person, let alone our flights, let alone the chalet that we were in, let alone eating, drinking, because we didn't pay for anything. You bought your
Well,
suitcase,
that
clothes.
sounds
Yeah,
like an amazing experience.
it was great. But I always, the point of at Birdie, I was at Birdie for 3 years, and as I said, I started as a customer success manager. However, I'm very vocal. The CEO knew from day, even in interviewing, that I was very passionate about community, very passionate about community, customer experiences, but also passionate about community, and that's where I saw my future in. At some point after being a CSM for a while, we scaled really quickly and we needed someone to do customer support. I had never done it before, but I was like, you know what? I like talking to people. I like solving problems. I feel like I can do it. And so I did take over the customer support function and scaled that. I was just me doing it for about a year, and we were supporting about 200 different companies in the UK. Then it grew to like over 1,000, and it was still me. And I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It was a lot. I went through lockdown where I was supporting customers, and eventually I kind of put a business case forward for us to hire some agents. I got funding to hire a team of 8 people initially, which just shows you how crazy it was. Just me, one person managing it. It was very intense. And that was really cool. I enjoyed being the manager, but I think in my journey, it was probably quite premature for me to be a manager of 8 people by then. But we're not going to talk about that's also startups, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of
Yeah,
thrown into the deep end quite quickly.
yeah, exactly. And you just have to. It's literally sink or swim. And
Yeah.
I mean, I was swimming, kind of like I would say it was more swimming than sinking. So,
Hey, net positive.
and but eventually in the marketing team had decided they wanted to create a community role, and literally it got to a point where lots of people come up to me like, oh my God, Kriss, marketing are hiring for community. Have you heard? Have you heard? Because everybody knew I was the
You
community.
wanted that role.
And this is about probably like 3 years later, I guess. And I was like, yeah, I am pumped. Let me go and let me apply for it. I spoke to the marketing manager, the hiring manager at the time. And due to my nature of my role being in customer care, obviously having such a close relationship with our customers and understanding their needs and wants, even though I didn't have a marketing background per se, it made sense because I knew the needs and wants of our customers, how to speak to them, and what they really wanted from our product. So that led to me moving into the marketing team as a community executive and hosting events and event management. So as a health tech app, we had one national event per year hosted
Yeah.
in Birmingham, which saw about 7,000 to 10,000 people attending. And then we had maybe 7 to 10 smaller regional events dotted up and down the country, which was my job to kind of manage these from start to end, as well as, see the building of our community. We had I want to say like a forum of super users, and they would often beta new releases, give us feedback, and kind of facilitate that relationship between our customers and the app and the developers. I then left Birdie and went to Super High, and Super High was kind of a similar kind of crossover or amalgamation of everything I've done so far. It was customer success manager and community leads, and this was a massive community. It was a community of about 10,000 different learners, across the country, not the country, the world. It was a global community. So um, Super High's role is kind of really they help people. Sorry, I'm a lot. Super High help people upskill themselves. If you are a coder, if you're a designer, if you're into project management, basically, if you want to improve your tech skills, you can buy a course from Super High, and you would have spoken to me either through our emails or in our Slack. I would have given you advice on what courses to take next, or giving you advice on this is so and so, they've done a similar path, they have a similar background to you. You can chat with them, and they will help you. And also putting on courses for our customers, and finding out what courses they wanted to do. And I was there for about a year doing that until the world of tech caught up with me and I got laid off.
Yeah.
And and for me, I think layoffs happen, what I mean? It's in tech, it's bound to happen. It was about it would have been like 2023 now,
Mhm.
or 2024, I can't remember. But it was the period where everyone was getting laid off.
Yeah.
And this is my very first layoff, and I was like, I have been in tech for like in startups for about 4 or 5 years now, and it's never happened to me. I think I've had a pretty good ride.
Yeah.
So you've got to kind of ride the wave. There's high risk, high rewards, and sometimes you ride
The
the
risk
wave,
goes
and
up. Yeah.
sometimes you crash out. And I think during that period, it took me a long time to figure out, what I wanted to do next, because I guess in that period of time, where a lot of people don't understand community, a lot of community roles that seemingly dried up, especially in the UK. I was also back in the UK. Well, I didn't mention I was in Ghana, but yeah. um, I a lot of community roles seem to dry up, and so it was really I could have gone back to customer support, could have come back to doing customer success management or account management, or things that seemingly overlap with my skill set. But it was then that I really decided that I was really, really super passionate about community. Even I knew I always loved it. That's all I wanted to do. To the point where I took a role doing customer support, and it was a really good role. It was an American role, and they say they're paying well above average for British companies. But I just wasn't happy. My heart wasn't in it, and I'm someone that unfortunately, if my heart is not in it, my heart is not in it, and I'm probably not gonna be that great. Um, and so then after some more thinking, I actually decided to go out and freelance, because whilst a lot of companies don't understand what community is, a lot of them do, but sometimes they don't have the bandwidth or the big budgets to get a full-time community manager or to focus on community. And so at the moment, I'm focusing on helping smaller businesses to kind of have that community offering, whether it is building their community from scratch or supporting their community to moderate, manage, or scale it. And yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
That's really, really good. And I also like the fact that you touched on your non-linear transition into that. Like your background was not necessarily marketing or community, but also you started from other customer-facing roles like support and customer success, and then got into community. And that's great because it really leads into the next question that I was going to ask you is, well, if somebody asked you like, explain to me like I'm five, what does community management mean?
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell them?
Yeah, that is, I think, the pretty much the bane of my life. Always trying to explain community to people, because a lot of people do community. I think community is so used, like it's just a word that's thrown out at the time, and we're seeing that now, especially post pandemic. Everyone's like, we need community, guys. Even we've seen in London, UK, run clubs. Oh my god, guys, we want communities back. And I'm also seeing a lot of social media managers are throwing out the word. A lot of brands are throwing out the word, and they're not don't necessarily have a good understanding of community in its simplest form, and why social media is not always, or it's not necessarily community. Community is a group of people that come together because they share the same belief or they have a common goal,
Yeah.
and there is that sense of belonging. But it's not. It's all of us having a conversation, and it's a two-way conversation, as opposed to social media where it's a brand speaking to many people. That's an audience. So I think in its most simplest form, the community is
That's
the
a good
two-way.
distinction.
Yeah, yeah. It's the two-way, you can't, as much as, yes, I follow so and so on TikTok or Instagram and they have 5,000 or 10,000 followers, I don't feel like I can probably go to that influencer and say, hey babe, what do you think about this? Because they're probably not going to see it.
Mm,
Whereas if I'm in a community with someone on Slack, I can probably at them, or we can have a group discussion about whatever this conversation is, and that is the community.
yeah, yeah. And as the community manager, what are you doing on a day-to-day as part of that job? Because you said, for instance, at super high, you were, for instance, like facilitating conversations. Do you know this person is trying to do the thing that you're doing? Go have a call with them. This is a good next course to do. And I get that because that's also sort of supporting individual community members. Is this something that cuts across all community managers, or are there maybe what three things that are a common thing that no matter what community you're managing, you might do?
That's a good question. I think I would say yes. I think even I think a big thing about community management, or the key things about community management, is facilitating these conversations. Then all of these conversations don't have to be kind of singular conversations. Even if I'm seeing people are saying, "Oh, I really want to go into product management," and I'm getting loads of people, I might say, "Okay, now I'm going to create some content around it because lots of people are asking as opposed to one person." So now, I might do an event series for the next 3 weeks on how to get into product management. I might ask one of our senior product managers to do an Ask Me Anything, and that is content that is available for everyone as opposed to one person. So there is so knowing, I guess, part of, and it sounds really easy, and I think people always feel like community management is really easy because you're talking to people, but and knowing what you're doing, but it takes, I would say, it takes a skill, it takes the right person to be able to kind of pull out information from people, and to also make people feel comfortable enough to share and speak, because I'm sure some people would sit here and they would also resonate, because I'm the same, and in some communities I'm really active, and some communities I'm not so active. And that also depends on the vibe, the feel of that community. What is that community manager doing to make sure that I feel like I can share my voice, and I don't have to hide behind my screen and stay hidden. And so in terms of that skill, what would I describe that skill? I would say being able to build a rapport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely understand what you're saying. It looks like three things that I've gleaned from this conversation is that one, you need to be able to have your ear on the ground and understand what the needs, like what I guess pervasive needs are being talked about a lot, and then
Mm,
try to come up with solutions to bridge that
yeah.
gap that is being talked about. But then I think another thing that you talked about is building that rapport and being quoted unquote the vibe bringer, like making sure that you're creating the space that is nurturing enough or that is fertile enough for all the other things to happen. because it kind of starts from you. Like for you, it's your work and it's your the thing that you need to do. For other people, they need to feel like the space is good enough for them to like participate. And so being the community manager also kind of makes you the chief vibe bringer. And
Yes.
yeah, and then I guess that the third one is to be already connected to who can help the community. Because you
Yes.
mentioned you can start a series on AMA with somebody in product or somebody in your community, but that's because you've already built those relationships of the resources that could then help the one to many, you know?
Yes.
And so it sounds to me like these are three very good things that you need to know that you can do if you want to go into community. How's that sound?
No, I completely agree. And I think the probably layer that's missing is, it's enough like or just enough being the vibe curator of this community and understanding the needs and wants of this community, but then the other layer is when you throw the business on top of it and the business have got their goals and their KPIs sprinkled on top of it, and sometimes that's I think sometimes that's a bit of friction, frustration, where the needs and goals of the community don't always align with the needs and goals of the business, and how do we find that happy place?
Oh, that's good. That's a very good one as well, especially because we're going to talk about how are you contributing to the business and stuff like that. It's important to remember that if this is your job, you're also there to achieve
Yeah.
business goals, and that sometimes might not. Oh, that's a very good one to remember. So, yes, you need to be understanding what the needs of the community are. You need to be understanding what the rapport and the vibe you need to create is. You need to be in touch with resources that could help the community, but also, and quite very importantly, you need to understand what the business goals are for creating that community anyway, and make sure that all the things you're doing are mapping onto some important KPI and eventually bringing value to the business. That's a really, really good place to sort of like a really good, I guess, nuggets to have in your toolbox if you're considering community at this point. Great. So the next thing that I wanted us to discuss was when people are trying to get into social into community management, they need to go through interviews, right? And one thing that interviewers, hiring managers care about is if bringing you on board can help them achieve this company KPI that they're trying to get to, right? And so what are some of the things that community managers and like your work directly map onto? What is the contribution to business goals that are typical within the space?
I'm going to answer that in a minute. Before
Right?
I jump in, I am just going to say I think as a community manager and aspiring community manager, you have to be really, really sure that the organization you're going to really has a good understanding of community, and because community is not something that you start today and you're going to see results tomorrow.
Yeah.
Communities are something that have to be nurtured, and a lot of companies they're seeing communities that buzzword. Oh my god, this is the way to get lots of money. Oh, baby, slow down. You have to be really sure that this company is prepared to invest in community and really kind of like really nurture it and give it some love and attention. It's probably like sourdough starter. I work for sourdough starter, so that's why it's on the top of my brain. It's not like buying a
Getting into
sourdough.
community is like nurturing a sawdust starter. You heard it here, folks. I don't think anyone's ever said this before.
But honestly, it probably is. You have to peek at the community, see if it's breathing, if it's engaging with you. And then one day, like after a couple of days, you're like, oh, but there was a little bit of activity. Then it's gonna be like, oh my god, it's ready. There's the
Yeah.
community. So, yeah, like I said, I think you have to really, really make sure that the organization understands that and is aware of that and isn't just hoping for a quick fix.
Yeah.
In terms of demonstrating how you can actually, help their brand, I would say community goals can feed into a number of different things because community is also one of those things that in my career, I've sat in marketing teams, I've sat in customer experience teams, I've also sat in
Mhm.
my very own community team. So it can look very different in different organizations. Another thing again to understand that there is buying at the top at community, and it's not just somebody flying the flag, and senior management don't care about community. Make sure everybody in the team in the company
Yeah.
really, really cares about community. Um, So I'll give an example of what I'm doing now. At the moment, I'm working on a project where this is a smaller business who are trying to get I want to say a larger percent share of the audience market at the moment. And what I'm doing now is actually building their community from scratch. And our massive KPI that I'm working towards is essentially bringing in, the goal is to bring in more sales.
Right.
Um, so through that, and how I'm going to do that through the community is by elongating the customer journey. At the moment, the customer journey between this company and the customer is very, there isn't really a journey. Customers probably come on and, get what they're looking for, and that's it. They won't revisit that website for another year or 2 years, depending on whatever they need from the website. So, in having communities is going to be designed to work as like a moat to make sure these customers stick around for a little bit longer. So to change that relationship they have with the company.
Yeah.
Typically, they would come in, like I said, they would come and spend a couple of minutes, get what they need, they would visit again.
Fun.
Now,
Yeah.
if I know that there's a community. If I have questions to do about this sector, about this field, I'm going to go to their community and I'm going to go speak to some experts, speak to some people, get some advice. I'm
Yeah.
going to, so that elongates my relationship with this company. And
Yeah.
now, when I need that next thing in that field, that company is first, top of my mind. I already have a relationship with them, and I already have a relationship with them. It means I can also refer my friends and family. And as we all know, referrals are very powerful.
Yeah.
Human psychology, they're very powerful. I'd much rather buy from someone that has referred to me as opposed to going on Google searching and finding something of myself. If my
Yeah.
friend said she had a great experience, me too. I want to have a great experience.
No, 100%. Like
Yeah,
it sounds like one of which is intuitive, right? Community maps onto retention goals. And the
yeah,
thing with retention for customers is that if you have high customer retention, that can lead to cross-selling to that same customer, upselling to that same customer, even keeping a cyclical, like, revolving door, getting that customer back in for all of those leads. But then that customer can then become your ambassador or like evangelist for your product, and then that becomes a new customer. So that's a really good way to look at it. And I like the fact that sales comes up because customer retention, it's not new business, it's business with the old customers, but it's the easiest customer to get.
yes, exactly. Everyone knows it's much cheaper to keep customers than it
Yes.
is to attain new customers. So we want to keep our customers, we want to retain them for as long as possible and make sure and it's also cheap for us if they're going out and doing our work for us and telling us how great we are.
Yeah,
Like, that's a lot.
exactly. You're getting like quote and unquote like free case studies in the
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
walking case studies, and people are just seeing that and coming back to buy. And I really like the part about people having access to responses to their questions quickly. We've all seen it where if you have a MacBook or if you have like a Windows PC and you type in, why is my shift not working, or like why is my Mac not copying this thing that I want to copy or something, and you see that somebody else has responded to that question on the Apple community, and it's like that is not Apple doing that work, it's somebody who is doing this free work of giving you information, but because they facilitated that and build that environment, you're getting the help that you need. And that's the work of a community manager, folks. Like it's a community
yeah.
manager who builds the space for you to get access to that kind of information. And
I guess,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off.
No,
It's
I'm
just
done. Yeah, Yogo.
I was just going to say, what? That is also so successful. Going back to like kind of intrinsic human behavior, human psychology. Humans love to talk about themselves, and they love to know if they're good at something and they have the knowledge. They love to share it because it's almost like they've got. Now, someone said that person has gone to that Apple board and said you fixed their problem, and they've given you a little pat on the back, a virtual pat
Yeah.
on the back. You feel really great now. Like, oh my god, I helped Tom in Scotland fix his MacBook. Like, I feel we're really good. It's like
Yeah. No, that's
just go
really, really
back,
good.
yeah, little thing in human psychology. Like, it's really
Yeah.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
so interesting. And humans really value that. They really
Yeah.
value that.
Yeah,
So,
that's really good. And that also brings to mind that aside retention and like sales as a KPI that you can talk about in interviews, another thing will be positive brand sentiment. because that idea of like humans like to feel good. And so if you're facilitating a space where they can get answers to questions, they can access people who are dealing with things that are similar to them, you're by that getting goodwill for the company and making people think, oh, this company cares about me. Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people say, oh, Beyonce cares for us. Beyonce thinks about us before she sleeps. And that's because like Beyonce's built that positive brand sentiment. And that's
Yeah.
what you're doing for your company if you're garnering this kind of conversation, you're creating the rapport and connecting them to solutions to their problems. So that's also a really good KPI to bring up in interviews. That's great. Now I want to talk about how do people become community managers? Like if I'm watching you right now, I want to be like that. I want to become a community manager. What should I do today?
What should you do? So that's a great question. I would say community manager. I think the first thing is, and sometimes it's a good and a bad thing, is there isn't. I wouldn't say there's a structured way to become a community manager. Almost anyone could become a community manager. I think there are so many transferable skills from absolutely everything. Like you kind of heard, I haven't had a traditional. I didn't wake up and decide I want to be a community manager. I just woke up and I was very much had a kind of generalist or not so linear, all over the place career, and have decided I want to be a community manager. And transferable skills involve being communicating with people, being able to understand people. I think the number one thing is being a problem solver.
Mm,
That is, yeah, being a problem solver, someone that's creative. I didn't always classify myself as someone who's creative. But being a community manager, I've had to lean into that and creative ways to kind of solve issues, creative ways to kind of advertise the goings on in the community, creative ways to speak to people. There's so many different ways to be creative. So I would say those are my top ones: creative, being a problem solver, knowing how to talk to people.
mm,
Because
mm.
you spend a lot of time talking to people, obviously, talking to your community, but also talking to major stakeholders and
Yeah,
explain really um just kind of jumping off our last question, where we have qualitative goals or qualitative KPIs, you need to explain the story of community, a lot of storytelling. Not everything is going to be, an action has a cause and reaction. Sometimes you need to say, this is what the data is saying, but sometimes we know data doesn't tell everything. You have to
yeah.
go and
It's tied all together.
exactly tie it all together. So those are the key things. And of course, you can do some outside learning to do that. But I would say
Yeah.
the best thing, if you want to be a community learner, join communities. um,
Yeah. Practice
join
what you preach.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be. I mean, I'm part of communities for community built managers, but I'm also part of a load of other communities as well.
Mm,
And when I say join communities, don't be there's the term that I don't really like, but like a lurker or a silent community person. I think there has to be a community that you're passionate from. And I would say the best thing to do is, if you want to be a community manager, talk to the person who manages that community and ask them, can you be a community moderator? Can you be a manager? Can you you want to help facilitate them?
mm.
Lots of community managers and moderators are so happy for the help, because community is a very, very, very big job. So no one is going to refuse that help.
Yeah.
And from there, you're going to be able to learn what is working well for this community, how I'm able to engage this community, how I'm able to engage this community, and take that and apply that to your to you being a community manager.
Yeah.
So there's lots of, however, that means that there's loads of books, there's loads of resources on community.
Yeah.
But I think the best practical advice is to go out there and
Join
community. And you
community.
know what? I say join communities. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a digital community. How about facilitating communities with your friends, like throwing dinner parties every month, doing something else, even in throwing dinner parties on a monthly basis, and that's an in-person community. You can learn a lot about community building through that.
Yeah. 100%. And I really appreciate the point around transferable skills as well, because um building a community, there's so many things that we do on a daily basis that can be relevant in that, but also offering that help to a community manager for a community that you're in. I agree. Like they will eat that up. Like they always need help and they always need someone to be as interested. in the community to be able to come up and say, can I do this thing? Can I host like a small meetup for people in my area? Like, things like
Yes.
that are what can help you. And then you can bring those skills onto your CV and say, even though I haven't held the role, I've done XYZ that are very community manager adjacent, and that could get you into your foot into the door. So that's a really good way to couch like the path into community. But yes, now that you've kind of hit on it as well, I would like you to give our community members some resources that you think will be really good to call out. So you can call out what you remember right now, but after this, we'll also like get some of them via email and add it to the YouTube description. But what are some must-have maybe podcast or YouTube videos or book you've read, or I don't know, person to follow? You're talking about Rosie at the beginning of the call. Like who should people who are trying to get into community be aware of?
So yeah, I did mention Rosie. Rosie is fantastic. Rosie of Rosie Land. So Rosie's a British community builder, and she does a lot of, I would describe a lot of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like logical community building, in terms of like she really applies to human psychology and also kind of theorizing community building, which I find really interesting. And I think Rosie does a lot of work to kind of push the thinking, push the evolution of the world of community building. So I love reading her stuff. Another person who I really, really love is Francisco of Led by Community. Francisco is also based in the UK, and he has a massive, Rosie also has a newsletter, and she has a paid subscription as well. Check her out on Rosie Lands. Led by Community is also a private community with a newsletter and lots of events. To the extent I go to monthly community management events in London, hosted by, well, I have hosted some as well, Francisco again, where it goes to, I love them so much. I have offered to help him because he doesn't live in London, and it's a pain in the ass for him to come to London every month to host these events. But this day is just a day of community management, getting together, talking to each other about problems we're facing and how we can help each other. He's definitely one to follow. As podcasts go, I really like In Before the Lock. In Before the Lock is an American community management podcast by Erica and Brian. I remember forgetting everyone's surnames today,
It's
but
okay because I will come back to you and get the list, the names, and we'll write it in the description. But that's good for anyone who's watching and was like, oh, let me check this out. It's good to
yes.
have them on the call. Yeah.
I really love their podcast. I think they give really practical advice, and they have both been in community for such a long time. So really good people to listen to follow on everywhere. Um, um, there's other couple of communities I'm also part of as well. CMX is one of them. They're American based and really, really great. They've kind of got different chapters. If you're based in Nigeria, I know they have a chapter in Nigeria. They have
Yeah.
chapters all over the world. So really good to kind of reach out to them and go to their events. And they have
Yeah.
both virtual and in-person events. And there is another Nigerian community of community builders I'm actually part of. I can't pronounce the name, but it'll be down
In
because
the
I can't pronounce
description. And I was just thinking about it right now that, for instance, if there's a community that has a chapter in Nigeria and you're in Ghana right now and you're thinking of starting a chapter in Ghana, this could be a way to get into community management without necessarily having to put in too much. So these are really good. I'm really grateful for the resources as well. We will link all of them in the description and you'll have access to them. But first of all, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for talking to our community. It's been so good to hear about your background and also hear about how people can transition, how community contributes to like the business goals, and of course all the resources that people can use to become awesome community managers like you. Is there anything you'd like to say to your audience before we go?
No, I think this is probably gonna be my little spiel actually. Like if you are I was saying to Jess before we start recording that when I went into community, there wasn't really faces much like myself. If you're at home, if you're in Nigeria, Ghana, anywhere in Africa, or other black countries, and you want to get into community management, do it, do it. There needs to be more faces. There needs to be more people that look like us. So yeah, do
Go for it.
it.
Exactly. Guys, I'm gonna link Chris's details and LinkedIn in the description. So go follow her, go interact with her. She will be very happy
I
to
will.
chat with you and, you know, show you this is her job. Like she can show you the
Yes.
way or connect you to the right people to have the conversation that you need to have to get there. Thank you so much for watching, and come back for the next one.